Test, 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 test. It's cleanup day at McGolf. Welcome back to the McGolf shop. And after 8 months of non-stop club building, it is time to clean. So what do we have to do when we clean, right? We stop from top to bottom just like we do any other thing, cleaning a car, cleaning your house, whatever. Same thing. But the real issue here is when we deal with steel, graphite, chemicals, it's just a whole litany of things, stuff gets everywhere, right? Now this isn't a down-home spring cleaning. This is just to get we're calling it I call it a top surface cleaning. Okay, a top surface cleaning. What does that mean? Well, that means I knock down all the dirt so it doesn't look like a pigsty in here. So what do? Well, I get my shop vac out. Now a shop vac it comes in multiple sizes. Anybody that's been to a Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, the shop vacs come in real small portable sizes, of which I've got one for my grill, and two ginormous kind, and those like 5-gallon capacities, which I prefer. Now, for you guys that are hobbyists out there or only can work in a small space, a vacuum or a shop vac, as the case may be, in the bigger variety, the one that has a whole lot of flow, you want a lot of airflow, those can be really great dust collectors as well, right? You have to be able to have the stuff that's going to the filter on the inside of it that's going to be able to filter very fine particles, much like the graphite, dust. And if you guys have benches, what you can do is you can make these attachments that go underneath your tools and just hook onto each one individually, so you don't have to have a really intricate setup, much like I've got with this guy right here, and then it's one at a time. Now, if you guys are a little bit more higher volume, or somebody's out there, then you certainly want a ventilation system, because ventilation keeps all that stuff from being in here. Last thing you want is black lung or anything like that. Now, can you use a mask while you do all that? Well, sure, but who wants to wear a mask? We're already doing enough of that as it is. You have to have ventilation one way or another, right? Whether it sucks it away from you that way, sucks it down away from you in a draft table, whether you use the shop vac, doesn't matter as long as you're using it. Take care of your health. Anyway, with this small one that I have, allows me a little portability. I'm allowed to get into the cracks and crevices. Now, before I do that, there is just so much surface area out here that the little end of the nozzle isn't going to do it. So what I do is I take my foxtail from the foxtail and pan, and I start taking it down off the wall and knocking all the big stuff down, right? And the idea of why I use the shop vac is to get into the crevices of my slat wall to take all the dust and gunk that's been built up. Okay, that's what we're looking to do, is take all that dust that's been built up. Take a lot of the surface dust that's off on like the pictures and the clocks and the belts and things like that, until it gets down onto the table. Then when it gets down onto the table, we hit our machines. Now, when we hit our machines, my two dustiest machines are my 1x42 belts with the wheels on them. And what are they? Those are they're Baldor motors, half horsepower, 1725, I think is the number, 1800 RPM. Single phase. One has an industrial toggle switch on it, or a flip switch as most people might call it. The other one has since broke, and I've used a normal household switch to deal with it, because I can't find a black switch like that. So it's very, very convenient to be sure, but it's a pain in the butt when you have to take it off to go clean it. And you're like, well, Jim, what do you got to clean it for? Well, this thing gets covered in dust. It gets covered in just all kinds of things. So we've got to take this thing apart. So now that we have it apart, now we need to go clean it out. I normally won't do that here, and it's a ginormous mess, and you're going to see why here in a second. Okay, as cinematic as I could make that be, it's really nasty, right? You saw the big clobs of graphite, the big clobs of the felt, and the ferrules turning shavings, all came out, right? All came out. And then what we have to take care of is the idler wheel. Now, one has an open bearing, the other one has a sealed bearing. So the sealed bearing one, all I do is clean off all the excess, because it for some reason it accumulates belt goo, and I'm not sure why that is, but it does it. So every time I clean this, I got to shave it and clean it up, and it works fine after that. The open bearing one, you have to clean out. For anybody that's done that, the easiest thing is to hit it with some WD-40, let it spin it around, let it work its way down, and clean it up, and then you should be good to go. Now the other part, you want to get all the cracks and crevices, because you don't want to bring any more dirt back in. All right, so while that's done, then we go to clean the top of the bench. The top of the bench is, it normally catches all the dirt, and it's easy, just pan it off with the foxtail and then clean it with the Windex or whatever cleaner that is that you prefer. Now in between that, we're cleaning my drills. All right, I have two DeWalt drills. They're both of the 20 volt nature. And I used to have Black & Decker, they work just fine. The DeWalt's work better, right? And they normally, you can get two drill kits in some cases. I would recommend that highly just for speed. Again, if it's a smaller thing, don't sweat it, but make sure you get 2 batteries, because nothing's worse than having to wait for a battery to charge. Then we go down, we clean the rest of our area up, which is my Jet 2-inch 2x36 belt sander. It's called a multi-tool. And the reason why it's a multi-tool is for the big belt that's over here. Basically, I'm just wiping it down, wipe the area, because I don't use it too often, so it doesn't get as dirty as the other ones. Now my cutoff wheel, for certain it does, and my drilling machine, as you've seen, it collects a lot of stuff. Now I'm only concentrating on the dirty side because, well, it's the dirtiest, right? What you don't see is later on, I basically, where you've seen me do all the work that's basically this way, over in that area, I pulled everything off to the side, I swept it down, I cleaned it back up, and I put it right back. All right, as you can see, there's the shaft puller. And you get to see all the stuff that I keep on my workbench. And then, it's significantly cleaner, because that stuff all the way right about to where you see right here, that used to just be full of junk. And so cleaning up means cleaning around. So that's not too bad. It worked out pretty good. I'm really happy with that. So then after we get done with that, then you have to use the and we got to use the mop, right? We got to clean. I've got to sweep it up, get all the stuff out, clean all the crevices, and do the mopping. I know it sounds mundane, Jim. Why are you doing that? Well, it's because you have to clean up after yourself. And club making is dirty, right? And the cleaner you can keep this side, the cleaner this side stays. And this is supposedly the clean side. And so we went through that and we cleaned that as well. Now all this is a wipe down, and we're going to go over the clean side tools on another video. But as far as the dirty side goes, the 2 primary operating are my 1x42s. The Jet belt is good for the grinding and any other finishing that you might have. This is the Grizzly 12-speed benchtop dress. I recommend this thing highly. Okay, I don't have any sponsorship or anything with that. As you guys know, I'm a big buy it once, buy it, and that's it kind of guy. This is one of those things. I've had the 10-inch little benchtop models, and they will do fine. And I had one for many years, but it just doesn't have the oomph or the give it doesn't have the kick that the smaller ones does. Or the smaller ones just don't have the kick that this big one does. And I have not done anything but come off of or been on the slow speed, and it does everything I ask it to do. Reaming, cleaning, end milling, the whole 9 yards, right? It does it all. And the clamp that comes with it, you can get from Golf Works. It's got the handy gizmo, so you can feel how it's moving through. It's a great combination. Then the cutoff wheel. This cutoff wheel design doesn't exist anymore because it's laid flat, so it may have a slighter, larger footprint on there. However, they do make one that doesn't cut up a lot of dust, but it has a much bigger footprint. It's more like a tile saw, and it uses wet, so you have to empty the drawer with the wet. There's no dust, but there's a little more dirt. So it depends on what your feeling is for that kind of stuff, and that's really what you have to think about when you're laying out your bench, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about is shop layout, right? What I've been showing you is what's on my dirty side. We'll carry on what's on the clean side on another video. And this is where we are, prepping tips, cutting shafts, polishing clubs, polishing ferrules, taking things on the wavy wheel, drilling out heads, just everything that makes dirt, it's all over here, and you saw we went through that part. I do get asked every once in a while about shop layouts, okay? And in my opinion, there are 2 kinds. Now, before I get started with this, we need to really address the fact that the layout is really relegated to your space, okay? It's relegated to the space that you have available to dedicate to the hobby, okay? Much like woodworking or automotive or any of those other kinds of hobbies, you have to dedicate a space. Same thing with making golf clubs. Now, for me, this is a business, and I have a dedicated space on one side for some other stuff and a dedicated space to the other side. And that brings me to this, the tour trailer design. And the idea, and I call the tour trailer because that's basically how they're set up. Tour trailers are rectangular in shape, and they tend to put all their, you'll have all your dirty making stuff on one side and all your cleanliness type stuff on the other. And if it's wide enough, you might even have an island in the middle, which is kind of this guy. All right, but the idea is that you have it on each side. Why did I pick that? Well, number one, that was the space that was available to me. You see me in here all the time. I have a relegated amount of space. Now, could I have made them narrower and put something in the middle? Yeah, but it would just been in the way. I'm really adapted to this, and I think it's a good layout. If you're in a more of a square or wider rectangle, you could probably get away with that, and I call it the island style. Okay. Now, I just put these two up as basics, right? So what we have here is you have the tour trailer, so you can have a dirty side and a clean side, whatever floats your boat. Now, you can also add a transition piece in the middle if you wish. If you don't, now like behind me, I've got a door, so that didn't happen. But if you're in a more of a closed room, you can have that, and that's just extra space where you can put your stuff. Now, the other part about this is do not count out wall space. All right, wall space all the way around. You could have cupboards. You could have, like I have, slat wall, or you could have pegboard, and you could hook a lot of stuff, hang a lot of things in the open that you may need, right? And not just frivolous stuff, but things that you could use, like belts and tools and things that you use very regularly. And one of my most used areas is actually a old tackle pull-out drawer, or a utility, what we call miscellaneous utility pull-outs, and they're little bitty shelves all the way across, and it holds all my ferrules. Right, it holds all my ferrules. And then I got another one above it. It holds all my shaft bands and some miscellaneous stuff like my easy outs and things like that. But for the most part, it's just little small items. I've also, that keeps them out of the way, is created some shelves, and it's much like, you see just the very end right here is the green. That was one of my other ones where I created a shelf that I could put clubs on in order to allow them to dry. Okay, we're getting kind of off topic, but I thought it was important to say. So we have the tour trailer. You can have dirty, and you do that. Now, the placement of your stuff is truly based on how you work, right? Me being a left-handed guy, I have my workflow from right to left because of the way most golf clubs are right-handed, or the way that you work. So I have to do that workflow. Now, for a right-handed guy, it might be just exactly the opposite, right? Just exactly the opposite. But what I would suggest is lay your machines on top of wherever you're going to put them, and try and put all your golf clubs up and do what I call phantom work. And you can put them in there and just pretend like you're doing these different works, and see if any of the other machines get in the way. And that way you know you have them spaced out properly. Now, in the island style has exactly that. It's an island in the middle, and then you can have a smaller set all the way around it if there's room. If not, then it's just the island. And then what you do is you set up your machines along the way, all the way around, and so that you can start from measuring clubs all the way around, testing clubs, fixing clubs, putting clubs together, and then mounting clubs, and then they're done. And then you could put them on the wall, put them on the side, whatever that works. But it's a workflow that goes all the way around. It's actually pretty cool. I just don't have that set up here. And so that is yet another way. Now, in these, when we talked about ventilation, right? Ventilation could sit right here in the middle and spread out like an octopus to all the other ones, where this one would be more in line, where there'd just be one straight line, and there'd be tap-offs to each one of the other ones, which is kind of what I've got. So that's just kind of a help. So there are those two different types of shops. Now, I know that there's going to be more out there, but those are the prevalent kind. And again, it's all relegated to space. Don't forget the need for storage, right? You're always going to need to put stuff somewhere. So always keep in mind storage as well as machine placement. So we got to see that's what's in my shop, right? And that's on the dirty side. And this gets most of, if not all of my work done from pulling shafts and doing everything else that you've seen me do on other videos. And again, another time we will do what's in my shop on the clean side, and we'll talk more about that and why. So again, hopefully you liked everything. Keep an eye out for our next video when it comes through. And as always, let's see your scores go low.